that timeline, given all of the procedural things that might happen now?
Scheduled for Friday at 8 p.m. Stay tuned.
C22, c'est prévu pour être voté demain soir?
C22, on va suivre la motion que nous avons déposée.
Selon la motion, ça serait voté demain soir.
Ben, on va... c'est jamais bon de préjuger les agissements de la Chambre des communes.
Avez-vous des attentes pour le Sénat après ça? Ça s'en va au Sénat. Est-ce que vous voulez que le Sénat... Est-ce que vous avez des attentes de rapidité pour le Sénat?
On fait son travail. On travaille avec les sénateurs, les ministres vont répondre aux questions. On va évidemment collaborer avec l'ensemble de leurs efforts.
Mais non, c'est ça avec pour d'autres projets de loi. Est-ce qu'il y a des projets de loi que vous aimeriez voir sortir du Sénat avant le départ pour l'été?
Bien, il est clair que moi et M. Moreau, nous parlons des grandes priorités du gouvernement et ce qui est faisable au Sénat. La collaboration est bonne et le Sénat joue son rôle.
Alors, c'est C25, qu'est-ce que vous espérez voir avec
le C25, c'est un projet de loi qui a joué d'un très grand consensus à la Chambre des communes. C'est un projet de loi un peu spécial. C'est une loi sur les élections. Donc, on s'attend à ce que la voix des élus porte même un petit peu plus dans le cas d'une loi sur les élections.
Can you repeat that in English, please? Yes.
On the Elections Act?
In regards to how many bills will be passed and in...
That wasn't her question.
Sorry, then I'm going to ask that question.
What's your question?
How many bills will be passed? What is...
Oh, well, we'll talk about that when it's all gathered up on scheduled for Friday. We'll come out and chat with you about what we think you've accomplished, but we're well on our way to accomplishing a great deal for Canadians in this session.
Some of the new bills that were tabled call for the creation of new regulators, commissioners, and so on. Why? Is it just more bureaucracy, or is it accountability that you're doing this?
Society evolves, and when you're talking about, safety of children online, when you're talking about issues with respect to victims of crime, I think government and public institutions must evolve as problems evolve. Okay? Merci.
C'est une bonne idée parce que c'est encore ça qui semble préoccuper dans notre banque hier au G7.
Ben, écoutez, nous, on décide ce qui est dans l'intérêt du Canada. Vous savez, on ne peut pas penser diversifier nos exportations sans s'engager avec notre deuxième partenaire économique. Vous savez, le Canada n'est pas différent des autres pays du G7. Tous les autres pays du G7 ont trouvé une façon stratégique de s'engager avec la Chine. Nous, on le fait à notre façon aussi. Moi, j'étais là en Chine récemment. On a été très clair sur ce qu'on pouvait faire. D'autres secteurs où ce n'était pas dans l'intérêt du Canada de s'engager maintenant. Moi, je pense que le Canada n'est pas différent des autres pays du G7. Et ça, tous les partenaires du G7 le comprennent. Si vous regardez, quand le premier ministre est allé en Chine, vous avez vu, je pense que l'ensemble des dirigeants du G7 sont allés d'une façon assez régulière. Moi, je suis allé, mes collègues des pays du G7, aussi ministres des Finances, sont allés aussi régulièrement. Alors, c'est clair que quand vous voulez diversifier vos exportations, vous devez parler à la deuxième plus grande économie mondiale. Puis dans le cas du Canada, deuxième partenaire commercial en importance. Je pense que tout le monde comprend ça autour de la table, que chaque pays, regardez les Allemands, regardez les Français, tout le monde doit trouver une façon stratégique de s'engager tout en étant clair sur ce qu'on peut faire, puis les secteurs d'activité où ce n'est pas dans l'intérêt du Canada de s'engager.
Vous aimez l'abordabilité. Est-ce que ça a valu la peine, la guerre en Iran, qui a fait augmenter le prix à la pompe pour les consommateurs canadiens? Est-ce que ça a valu la peine de mener cette guerre-là qui est contraire au droit international par les États-Unis?
Moi, le premier ministre s'est exprimé sur cette question-là. Je vous dirais...
Non, mais le sacrifice des Canadiens de payer plus à la pompe, ça a valu la peine?
Écoutez, il y avait un enjeu très important de sécurité nationale dans le cas de ce qui arrivait en Iran au niveau de l'arme nucléaire. Moi, je pense que ce qu'on voit présentement, c'est... D'abord, il y a une piste de solution qui a été évoquée. Je pense que c'est la chose sur laquelle on doit se focaliser parce que c'est clair que la liberté de navigation dans l'étroit d'Ormuz, ça va être important pour établir les chaînes d'approvisionnement, pour établir aussi le prix du pétrole à long terme. Bien, écoutez, moi, j'ai pas de boule de cristal, mais ce que je peux vous dire, c'est que moi, je regarde en avant. On est clair que l'année 2026 amène beaucoup de volatilité, beaucoup de complexité. Ça a été le message qu'on a apporté au niveau des ministres des Finances du G7 récemment. C'est-à-dire que nous, évidemment, on souhaitait la réouverture du détroit d'Ormuz le plus rapidement possible parce qu'évidemment, ça a des enjeux au niveau de la sécurité alimentaire, sécurité énergétique, sécurité économique, mais il y a aussi des enjeux de sécurité nationale. Donc, moi, je pense que la bonne nouvelle, c'est qu'on voit une avancée significative de ce côté-là, puis je pense que ça va aider l'économie mondiale.
Minister, I wanted to ask you about the same topic as well. And yesterday, the Prime Minister said that the war in Iran was worth it and that the Trump deal is a game changer. Do you agree with him on those 2 points?
Well, certainly in the sense that we have been advocating, we had a G7 finance ministers and central bank governors that we have seen since the war in Iran a lot of volatility, which has, translated into affordability issues in all the G7 countries. So for us, we've always advocated for freedom of navigation, to restore the supply chain, to restore the flow of oil, because we have seen the impact on food security, on energy security, and I would say even economic security and national security, because these things come together. So I would say it's good news. I've not seen the text that's being proposed, but the word of the Prime Minister, we're reassuring in a sense that, this is a game changer, will allow, hopefully, to reopen and stabilize, because what has been difficult for the G7 economies since 2026 is the volatility and complexity that we have seen, because there's a lot of secondary impact on terms of food security, on production, for example, of semiconductors.
But given those issues, does that mean that how can you then say that the war was worth it when you're listing out all these issues?
Well, when you're looking at issues as complex as those, there's a number of things that you need to be balancing. There's issues of national security, there's issues of energy security, but I would say for Canadians that are watching, the good news is that there's a path forward, which is will lead, if I read correctly what has been said, the reopening, freedom of navigation. But I would say at the same time, let's bring it back to what it means for Canadians in Canada. If you listen to the executive director of the International Energy Agency, he said something very interesting, that the world energy architecture is being redesigned, in light of what we have seen. And therefore, in his view, and certainly in our view, Canada is going to be called to play a much larger role when it comes to energy security with oil, with gas, with nuclear energy, because I think the world has seen it's not the only straits where things could be challenging. There's other straits, but when you look at Canada, we've been blessed by geography. We have the resources. We have access to 3 oceans. We have access to 1.5 billion consumers around the world. So I would say for Canada, it's good news that there would be freedom of navigation, but at the same time that the world is looking at a new world, at a new energy architecture, which will favor countries like Canada, which have critical minerals, which have energy.
Quand votre prédécesseur, M. Freeland, va dire à CNN que l'opération en Iran, c'est une démonstration remarquable de la faiblesse américaine, comment vous pensez que ça va être reçu à Washington?
J'ai pas vu ces commentaires. Moi, ce que je peux dire, moi, je parle au nom du gouvernement du Canada. Le premier ministre est au G7. Je pense que les Canadiens ont vu comment la voix du Canada porte. Moi, j'ai souvent dit, les étoiles s'alignent pour le Canada à l'échelle internationale aussi. On voit comment la voix du premier ministre compte. On voit comment la voix transatlantique du Canada porte. Non seulement le premier ministre est au G7, mais on nous a même invités encore une fois, comme ministre des Finances, à aller à la réunion des ministres des Finances de l'Europe, de ce qu'on appelle aussi le groupe euro. Donc, ça vous démontre à quel point c'est le premier ministre, c'est l'engagement qu'on fait au niveau des ministres des Finances, mes collègues aussi, mais la voix du Canada porte plus que jamais dans le monde.
There's a lot of skepticism about this war and the justification for it. Don't you think it could hurt Mark Carney's reputation that he's going around saying it was worth it? I mean, he himself said it might have broken international law.
Well,
Started in the first place.
I would, there's a number of issues of national security that you have to consider. Well, I think you just have to look at what has been expressed with respect to preventing Iran getting nuclear weapons. Just let me say that. And I would say what you're looking now, and that's good news not only for Canada, but I would say for the world economy, is the fact that the freedom of navigation and reopening that strait is good news for the world economy.
But
We've
it's
been
only got
talking.
closed because of the war in the first place.
Well, listen. The world is not. The world is fairly complex. You have to take it as it is. The reality is that Canada has been I would say, a positive voice in trying to find a way forward, and now there seems to be one which will help to reduce the volatility we've seen in energy prices, hopefully.
The Americans and all about the Gordie Howe Bridge.
Merci.
Are you going to use the notwithstanding clause to stop the MAID expansion if that's what the committee recommends?
Look, I don't want to prejudge the detailed findings of the committee. I've not had an opportunity to read the report yet. My mind certainly doesn't go to that place as a first option. I want to have an opportunity to actually understand the recommendation, to review some of the testimony, to engage with stakeholders across Canada to some degree on my own before we come to a conclusion on the next path forwards. But I'm looking forward.
Will this linger over the summer? When can we expect a decision?
Look, I'm going to have. It'll depend, obviously, on the depths of considerations that we're going to have to look into. We're going to take the time to digest the report. At minimum, over the next few weeks, it'll largely be understanding the recommendations that the committee made and the reasons that they landed on those recommendations. From there, we'll have to determine as a government the right path forward. But I don't have a date for you.
Monsieur le Président, en français, là, quelle est votre opinion à vous sur l'aide médicale à mourir, santé mentale, vous personnellement?
Personnellement, j'ai quelques expériences avec des personnes qui est proches de moi ou ma famille qui utilisaient le processus après le moment le nouveau processus est disponible partout dans notre pays. Mais c'est très difficile. Les faits dans chaque circonstance est très important. Nous avons besoin de considérer toutes les possibilités pour développer les nouvelles règles pour tous les pays. Quand nous faisons des changements de la Code criminelle, les règles appliquées pour chaque Canadien dans chaque région, c'est très difficile. C'est la raison j'ai besoin d'étudier totalement la recommandation de la comité. Oh, that was my attempt to repeat it. I got off a different track. Look, it's very difficult. There's very few people among us in Ottawa who don't know people who've gone through the process of medical assistance in dying. These are the most deeply personal conversations that you can have as a family member, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a policymaker. When we make changes to the criminal code, obviously they have national application. We have to make sure that we develop rules that can apply that broadly, but that are informed by the deeply personal circumstances. This isn't easy work, which is why I'm going to take the time necessary to fully understand the recommendations of the committee and the evidence that underpins those recommendations.
Dying with Dignity says that not enough personal stories were shared with the committee, personal experiences. Is that going to be a consideration when you review the committee? And how will you square that with, like, you know, there's personal experiences, but then there's also psychiatrists, like experts. So I just wonder how you're going to weigh that. Yeah,
look, that's a question that I think applies to governance more broadly. So I am going to have the opportunity to look at the witness testimony that came in. Obviously, that included a range of different voices. Some have expressed concerns. The development of that process was done by the committee. I wasn't engaged. Well, the decision to strike the committee was long before I was in this position. But we can supplement our understanding of the recommendations by engagement that I have done, that I will do, that others in government have done, and through conversations that will play out at Cabinet that will certainly include people's understandings of those personal experiences. You can't move forward with the policy development without both understanding the expert testimony, the position of those who dedicated their lives and careers to understanding the solutions, without also understanding how it plays out in very human terms for individuals who are going through, by definition, the most challenging moments of their lives. Okay, thank you.
Medical aid in dying, should it be extended for people with mental illness?
You know, I think that's a deeply personal decision that Canadians need to make. And I know that there's a government committee that has been looking into exactly that issue. It's a very complicated issue with lots of emotion on both sides of the equation, and it'll be interesting to follow along and see what happens with respect to that decision.
We're worried about how divisive this could become. We're expecting the government report or the committee report to say it should not be extended, and the dissenting senators report to say the opposite.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that people have different views on that issue, which, as I say, is a very complicated issue. It has emotional aspects to it, of course, medical aspects to it, scientific, and it's just very complicated for people to come to grips with that. And as I say, it's not surprising to me that we see different opinions with advocacy groups and with others regarding that issue. Not surprising to me at all.
I know that it's a busy summer for your portfolio, of course, unfortunately. But I wonder, is there any organization or thought being given to some kind of plan to convince Alberta not to vote Leave in this referendum? Like, is there a strategy? Are you all going to be farming out doing different things? Or, like, how's this going to work?
Well, I would say absolutely. There is a strategy, and like in terms of my own strategy, being the regional minister, I'm going to go to Stampede, of course, as I always do, but I'm going to spend basically the entire summer traveling my province and talking to Albertans, especially Albertans from smaller centres, and just telling them what the government is doing and reassuring Albertans that we're listening to them, that we care about their perspectives, and talking about the MOU and implementation agreement and any number of the other things that I think that our government's done to really reset the relationship with Alberta.
Is there a place to do that working together with the Conservatives? The Federal Conservative Party has also said that some are campaigning for Canada to stick together. Are you going to be working with any?
I absolutely think there's a place for that, and when events come up over the summer, it's not surprising to see Conservative MPs there, to see the Premier of Alberta. I expect to see her in Calgary at the Pancake Breakfast. So, in my view, it's really important for all of us to work together, as many voices as possible across Alberta should be making the case for a strong Alberta in a unified Canada.
But are there multiple strategies together already with the federal Conservatives or provincial Conservatives to have that happen?
So I won't say there's a strategy in place now, but what I am saying is I know that myself and all of my colleagues would absolutely look forward to and encourage working together with members of other parties.
And can I just ask you one more thing? The Prime Minister said yesterday that
For mental illness?
Sorry?
Should MAID be expanded for mental illness?
Well, I'm waiting to see what the committee says today.
What are your personal thoughts? Any reservations?
My personal thoughts have always been that I would rather not expand it to mental illness.
Why is that?
I don't think the Canadian system is ready based on the testimony that I've heard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Your personal thoughts on expanding MAID for mental illness?
Personal thoughts on expanding MAID? I can't say anything because the decision by the committee was made in camera, so it'd be a breach of parliamentary privilege for me to be talking about it. So you'll have to wait till the report comes out, which is after QP.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, your opinion.
How do I feel about it? Well, that would be getting into, I think, things that were discussed in the in-camera meeting, so I can't tell.
But what's your position? What's your position on it?
I don't even think I can say my positions. I think it would start to be revealing what was discussed in the committee. So.
Well, your position on expanding to mental health, expanding MAID to mental health.
You'll have to wait for the report to come out, I'm afraid.
Do you think the government should follow the committee's recommendation?
That's up to the government. I mean, there was an act of Parliament which created the committee that would make recommendations to Parliament, but then it's up to the Parliament and to the involved ministers to actually make the decision.
How tough were the discussions behind the scenes? This is a really thorny issue.
You're trying to get into what was discussed, which I can't say. But I mean, obviously this is a contentious issue.
Dying with Dignity says that you didn't hear from enough people with lived experience. What is your reaction to that?
I guess this concerns something which happened when we weren't in camera. The number of people with lived experience with mental illness and with suicidal ideation is enormous. I, as an emergency room doctor in Thunder Bay, on average, in the emergency room, we'd see between 5 and 20 people who'd either tried to commit suicide or had thoughts of committing suicide. So if you look across Canada, there's probably literally millions of people who've had psychiatric illness and had thoughts of suicide. Like, how could you do justice to that large number of people with bringing in a couple of people? It would not be representative in any way.
So are you saying that you stand by the committee's work, the amount of witnesses, the variety of witnesses that you saw?
Absolutely, and we followed the rules, and I think if we weren't following the rules on selecting witnesses, I think then we should be in trouble. But we studiously followed the rules on selecting witnesses, which is that each member of the committee puts forward names of people they'd like to appear as witnesses, and then the clerks and the analysts try to apportion equal numbers to each person on the committee. That's the way the elected people in Parliament have chosen to form committees, and we followed the rules as we should be doing. And I think if we weren't following the rules, then we should be in trouble. And if you look at the people that were witnesses, I think the people that we had as witnesses on both sides were excellent.
And some people say that the committee, there was a number of MPs who were subbed out during the process, and I just wonder what your reaction might be and what your response might be to advocates who say that the committee was stacked against this expansion.
Well, I think you could ask the same question of almost any committee in Parliament, and that's part of the politics, is who you choose as being members of the committee. And so I don't really want to go into the particulars as to who is on the committee and why they were chosen on the committee, but that's part of the process.
Do you see room, and sorry if this was asked and answered, setting aside whatever the recommendation is today about the further expansion, what about how the system is now? Is there enough parliamentary oversight and scrutiny of how Track 2 has been running in this country? And does it need more attention?
I think with all policy making, including whatever decision comes out today, I think good governance requires that the government from time to time periodically review their policy decisions. I would think that whatever our decision today, that at some point in the future, we ought to review that decision, but I think the same goes for the present MAID regime. I think it's only good policy making to periodically look at it and reassess it, and if possible, make it better.
For parliamentarians, so like I could hear the government saying, well, the Justice Department can do that, or the Health Department can do that, but I wonder about Parliament.
It's a good question, and who you choose to put on the committee of experts. I mean, I think that's a valid question, and whether it would be more appropriate if you were going to re-examine the current MAID regime, whether it would be parliamentarians or whether it would be a group of experts. But I certainly would suggest that would probably be appropriate.
How would you characterize how important this decision is by the federal government once it reviews your recommendation on the expansion of MAID?
How important is it? Yeah. Oh, I think it's extremely important. I mean, this is something that potentially touches all of our lives. I mean, there's probably not a person who doesn't know someone who's got mental health problems, family members, for example, and so I think this is an exceedingly important conversation, and the issue of, and really the question we were asked is, should the state be obliged to help people wanting to end their lives who have mental health problems? That's the question, and I think it's a pretty important question.
Can you just reflect on this 10-year anniversary of MAID?
This is the 10th year anniversary today, right? Yeah. Interesting. It's been 10, and you know what? I mean, certainly, whatever the decision of the committee today, I absolutely believe that a compassionate society allows MAID for people with terminal illness, people that are really experiencing intolerable suffering. Certainly there's going to be questions as to how far to go, how far that should be expanded, but certainly there's a solid core of people. For example, the people that were involved in the Carter decision were clearly to not offer MAID for people who are terminally ill and suffering would be wrong. And I don't think anything we decide today changes the fact that has been a positive thing. And I think hopefully the fact that we've allowed MAID for people in that situation has saved a lot of people from a horrible ending. And these are always tragic circumstances. I mean, And let me start off end by saying that I never wanted to be part of the MAID committee. Although I've worked as a doctor now for almost 40 years, the issue of medical assistance in dying is sad, it's distressing, it's not particularly fun to be involved with. But these cases of people in their dying days and choosing MAID when they have terminal illness are sad cases.
Have any of your patients, when you were practicing, ever asked you if it was possible to get like an assisted death because of a mental illness? Or did they express anything similar to that?
Well, as an emergency room doctor, you weren't the one to be. I mean, you often diagnosed things that looked to be terminal. You saw people who were terminally ill, but you weren't really in a position to be suggesting or offering MAID. But certainly there were people who I've treated over the years who were clearly terminally ill, and had they asked for medical assistance in dying, I certainly would have referred them to the appropriate people.
You seemed moved by the whole experience. How did it impact you, and did it cause you to rethink your position in any way?
Well, you want to be moved by the experience. I mean, this is the worst thing in life, death, and it's coming for all of us. I mean, we will all go through that. We all go through that with our parents. We all go through that with loved ones. It ought to be a moving thing, and it's a really difficult decision, and it's a decision unlike really the vast majority of other decisions we make around this place, which do have ramifications, important ramifications, and sometimes may even involve life and death. But this one, that's all it involves. It's a different nature of a question, and I'd say it touches upon greater themes. I mean, all the great works of literature and art and things revolve around human suffering, and that's the very issue that we're dealing with in this question.
Your opinion on it change over time? Did your opinions on it change over time?
I think that would start to indicate where the report was going, so I don't want to comment on that.
You turn around. So, Hockey Canada leaving CBC after 80-ish years. Just what do you make of the move?
Look, I think it's unfortunate. This is sort of a ship that started to sail 11 years ago with the Rogers Sportsnet deal. Again, I don't have direct responsibility over CBC, and I'm not aware of what the commercial terms in the negotiation were. But it's been part of my childhood. It's been part of many Canadians' childhood. It's really disappointing that they couldn't get to a deal, but it's hard to speculate without knowing the terms. And people like me shouldn't be involved in that negotiation directly, but I'm pretty disappointed.
So for Canadian citizenship, we've been very clear from the beginning. Each applicant must link their ancestry generation per generation through verified, authenticated documents. So the genealogy records are certainly not sufficient whatsoever. Thanks.
That goes against what the archives even say.
Valley, anything new that CBOT or CBOFT would be interested in? We want to make news.
In the Valley?
Yes.
Well, hello to everyone in Pembroke, Smiths Falls, Renfrew, love all those.
Yeah, but I'm speaking about your
Looking forward to touring around it this summer. Yeah.
Barbara House going to rise today?
Friday? Thursday?
For good on No More Hockey Night in Canada on CBC, do you care?
I think Canadians care. It's a tradition.
Did you watch
I'm a bad Canadian. I'm not the biggest of hockey fans, but I know a lot of Canadians will be disappointed to see that. But it seems to be what's going in direction in terms of sports and cable and maximizing the amount of revenue. So I'm not surprised.
Thanks for stopping.
No problem.
Logan, No More Hockey Night in Canada on CBC, do you care?
Oh, I mean, obviously we all grew up with it, you know, the iconic theme and all of that. I care, but we still got hockey. It's just on a different channel.
It's not free to all Canadians once a week. Is that a problem?
I think the reality is viewing habits have changed so much. Anyhow, you know, people aren't getting antenna transmissions of TV by and large. People aren't even getting cable by and large. We're all accessing these things differently. It changes. It's sad. We're nostalgic for it, but you know, we still got our hockey.
Fair enough. Thanks very much. Chair of the Heritage Committee, No More Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. Is that a heritage issue? Is that something that bothers you?
Yeah, I think it's sad. I think it means less access to hockey for people who particularly live in rural, remote areas of Canada. It's a tradition. It's sad to see it go.
Look at it? Is this something we should study?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll leave that to members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Horrible.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that upset you? Like you prefer that state?
Oh, absolutely. Like, how long has it been going on for? 74, 75 years? And the idea that it's coming to an end, somebody needs to look into that and reverse that decision.
Would that be you?
They need to come to a deal.
Both CBC and Hockey Night in Canada matter to me.
Yeah.
If they're married, that's better. I'm going to watch hockey.
Divorced, that's okay. You'll still watch it.
If it's divorced, I keep my friendship with both parties.
Fair enough. Thanks very much. No more Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. Does that matter to you?
Yeah, I just heard that the other day. You know, I've watched it since a kid. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I guess so. Yeah, you know, I haven't put much thought into it, but yeah, it's kind of a historic thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Watching that growing up. So
For sure.
yeah,
Good enough.
appreciate it, guys.
Prime Minister
So, plan to see him there. I'll be there, as I hope a lot of others will be through there too. It's always good to welcome ministers, and particularly the Prime Minister.
Do you have plans for rallies?
Yeah, well, I think there's a variety of things that will be happening in Alberta. It's 120 days to the referendum, so it'll be interesting to see the variety of things that are happening, and certainly plan to participate in a lot of it. Thanks, guys.